So the PvP event just started in Pokemon TCG Pocket, and it's no surprise that everyone is gunning for the emblems as fast as possible by running meta decks. So you might be in the same boat as I am because I'm kinda sick of seeing them everywhere, man, all these meta decks. Or you could just be unfortunate enough to not get the cards you need to compete against these strong decks. So that's why I have a list of 3 anti-meta decks just for you, and you can actually even make them if you're tight on a budget. The most popular decks that I always see a lot would usually be Pikachu X, Mewtwo X, and Misty decks. And I dare you to tell me one deck that isn't one of these 3 down in the comments below. So firstly, Pikachu X is easily one of the most popular decks in the game, for a good reason actually, mainly because it's so cheap to build and easy to pilot, especially with its hyper-aggressive playstyle. So to me, I found that the best way to counter this is to bring an entire deck that Pikachu X is normally weak to, which is going to be a fighting type deck. So the first thing that comes to mind will obviously have to be Primeape and Sandslash, being able to do a lot of damage with just 2 energy as well. I actually covered this in detail in my last video, so I'm just gonna put the link down in the description below if you want to see it. Anyways, this deck is pretty great since Primeape has the potential to one-shot Pikachu X as long as he has taken damage already. And you can easily get Mangi through the Lapras event, so this deck is relatively cheap to build. But if you really want to, you can actually replace Sandslash with Kabutops and Marowak X. It's all pretty flexible as to what you want in the end. Another option is to bring in Exeggutor or its X variant, both being able to dish decent damage early on for cheap, while being relatively tanky. And you can also keep him alive longer with Erica, while you can slowly build Venusaur at the back. The next popular deck you might see around here is actually Mewtwo decks, with Mewtwo X being able to consistently deal 150 damage back-to-back once Gardevoir is set up at the bench as an energy generating machine. The best way to win against this deck is to stop Gardevoir from setting up or KOing Mewtwo X early on. To deal with this, I went with a dark deck featuring Arbok, Weezing, and Muck. Arbok can firstly deal a good amount of damage with just 2 energy, and plus with Corner it can create trapping situations, preventing any swap outs. On the other hand, Weezing can only deal 30 damage with 1 energy, but at the same time it can also inflict poison, which is good for the next mon, which is going to be Muck, as being poison creates an opportunity for Muck to deal up to a whopping 120 damage as long as the opponent's Pokemon stays poisoned. If you want an alternative version, there's one by Balia where they utilize Farfetch, which applies a lot of early pressure in turn 1. And finally, there's the Misty decks that you'll see a lot. Normally, I see them being used alongside Articuno X and Starmie X, but there are some cases where I even see them used alongside Lapras X and Blastoise X. Ooh, that's a wordful. Well, either way, Misty can be the best or worst card in the game, and it all comes down to luck. If your opponent gets a good roll and generates enough energy to win the game, there's really nothing much you can do. And the best way to beat this sort of deck is to kind of prevent it before it can even happen. Like, for instance, you can also run your own Pikachu X deck since it's widely known as a natural counter, but if you really don't have that sort of luxury, you can also go for a Lt.Surge deck centered around Raichu and Magneton. The general strategy behind this is to generate energy with Magneton's ability, then pump them all into Raichu with Lt.Surge for an easy KO. This deck is a little bit more on the slower side, so if you're looking for something a little bit quicker, then just use the Pikachu deck. So yeah, at this point in time, you've probably made it to the end of the list. And you know what? Hopefully with these decks, you'll be able to hold your ground against top decks. Yeah, but let me know if you're using anything else in the comments below. I'm super keen to hear what kind of crazy things you guys have probably cooked up. Anyways, we're done. Show's over. Scram!